You're listening to episode 251 of the Super League Pod. And if you're listening in West Hull, just don't use your best sheets as you get your paintbrushes out. And if you're listening in East Hull, we know a 3-year-old that's got your team worked right out. And if you're listening in Warrington, stick with us. We plan to keep going as long as it's your year again. We get a new rhyme out of Wakefield. We find out about a butt lift makeover. So there's something for everyone. If you get strapped in, for SLP time. Hello listeners, it is episode 251 of the Super League Pod. This week you've got myself, Mark, and we're rejoined by Tim G, Rugby League nut Tim G. Welcome back to the show, Tim.
Hi, you right?
Yeah, good. Do you know, this week I totally couldn't work out where we were up to because I had David on the show last week, didn't we, to talk about St Helens in the World Club Challenge. I really couldn't work out where we were up to in the rotation of things. And so in a way, at first I wondered if it was Sarah, and I'm kind of glad after the way Hull FC's game went at the end of that Sarah doesn't have to deal with that. But then after I thought about that, I thought, oh wait, but Tim's got to talk about Hull KR's current plight. But at least the Coventry Bears got a game this weekend, which was good.
Cold.
So we can talk about the return to the big butt.
Yeah, and the new surface on the big butt.
Ooh. So that's exciting. So we'll talk about that later when we get to other results. Before we tell everyone what else is going to be on the show, do you want to give a shout out to this week's sponsor?
Yes, this episode is sponsored by Rob's Toy Shop, where you can find a wide range of toys, gifts, rugby league birthday cards and more at Rob's Toy Shop on eBay. If you visit stores.ebay.co.uk/Rob's Toy Shop, and on any orders over £5 you can earn 5% cash back. And also 1% of your order value will go into the SLP coffers by putting SLP discount as SLP discount in at the checkout.
Yeah, you get details of that on our blog post, superleaguepod.com, and thanks to Rob's Toy Shop for their continued support. So on the show this week, we've got a wide range of news. Not so many fan views on the news this week, but injuries are starting to mount. That's not ideal. And international eligibility rules get an update. So we'll talk about that in the news.
That's second only to an operational rules in its excitingness.
Well, it kind of is. It's grand scale operational rules, isn't it? But not worded quite as awkwardly, let's say. But some of the bits are tricky to get your tongue around. So we'll see how we get on with that. We've got loads of fan reviews, thankfully, on the weekend's games. Some games more than others, but the TV games certainly great numbers, and one of the Sunday games as well, good numbers. So thanks again to you guys for getting all those in. Please do keep it up because we're having a great time this year getting all these fan views in. Before we get to those sorts of things, there's a couple of bits we need to mention. We got our poll out, didn't we, Tim, to find out what merchandise people wanted this year. The winner in that poll, with 49% of the vote, was hoodies. So what I'm going to do now is try and find a suitable supplier of hoodies at a good cost, but with a good quality. I kind of want I want an embroidered badge, kind of like what we have on the hats, rather than a screen printed one. So we'll see if we can find that at a reasonable price. Polo t-shirts, they came in second place. People were keen to point out that they want polo t-shirts as long as the logo is quite small, not like the old t-shirts where it was jumping out at you. And you know, that is where we would go. We wouldn't have two t-shirts with big logos. That was second with 25%. So I will have a little bit more of a look into them as an option as well. I've already found some suppliers that do embroidered options there for those. It's just trying to work out price points and things like that. So that's great. Thanks to everyone who voted in that, and it means we can sort of plough forward and try and get some new merch out to the people, which is great. And bit of a shout out as well. I don't know if you've had time yet in your schedule, Tim, to catch up on this, but our friends from Down Under, Paul Craig and Rich Wilkinson, big thanks to those guys for taking part in our NRL special that we recorded at the weekend. Give it a listen.
Are they going by the stage duo name of Thunder and Lightning?
Well, we didn't. it's unfortunate that you weren't there for the recording, I guess, Tim. But what we did do is take a good look through all the British players who've gone to the NRL in the last decade, which actually was a longer list than I first anticipated. And then we had a bit of a look ahead to how our boys are going to go in 2020. We focused mostly on Callum Watkins and George Williams in that conversation, and then also we looked ahead to which players that are currently playing might join Luke Thompson in 2021 and beyond. And we also talked about what types of British players the NRL might look for and what impact that might have on Super League and the English national side. So if you haven't already given that a listen, please go back into our it'll be an episode behind this one in your podcast list, and please do give it a listen, because we had a good time recording that one. We went about 20 minutes or so over what I'd targeted timescale wise, but that's because we were having so much fun. So big thanks to those guys, and get your ears around that one, listeners. Right, that's the Open done. We're now going to move on to news from around the world of rugby league.
So moving into the news, and Wakefield have handed out lifetime bans following the use of smoke bombs and general anti-social behaviour. Trinity posted pictures of several men they wanted to speak to regarding the incidents in a recent match. 2 have now been identified and banned, while a third has been cleared of any wrongdoing after insisting the club with their inquiries. A club statement read, Wakefield Trinity would like to reiterate the club have a zero tolerance policy when it comes to smoke bombs and antisocial behaviour. Anyone caught will be handed a life ban from attending any games. These people are not welcome at our club in any way, shape or form. And we had a fan view on this one, Mark.
Yeah, Tom Andrews got in touch, more in jest than in seriousness. He said, having heard the results of the investigation, 2,000 more people have come forward claiming to have smoke bombs. He probably made that joke before Trin actually found themselves having another win on the road this weekend. But what do you think of this, taking some strong action against this kind of stuff that clubs have been releasing many a statement over the last 12, 18 months or so, but this is firm action, isn't it?
Yeah, I think this is exactly right. It's what we need to do. If you've ever been at a ground where one's been let off, they're blooming horrible things. Because they really do, like, especially if you get people that have got any sort of respiratory problems that you really know about it. I've got a friend who I go to football with, and she, as soon as one goes off, she can just hear her coughing for about the next 10 minutes. As well as that, they're incredibly dangerous. And the fact that more people haven't been hurt by them, is a flaming hot lumps of metal that people are chucking around. They're not toys, and yeah, that's right. And antisocial behaviour, we don't need them. Off you go.
Exactly. Obviously, they've investigated this properly. They've dealt with these people firmly. And I've said before, sometimes if it's like a young kid, doesn't know any better, needs a slap on the wrist, probably sat there in front of the chairman crying when he realises he might get a ban. But when it starts to become more senior adults, or people who are not just they seem to be doing these things, then being a dickhead when someone calls them out on it, and just creating a whole hostile atmosphere amongst the supporters. And we don't want that on our terraces. Bits and pieces of people not always getting on, fair enough, you can't always get on with everyone. The occasional spilt pie in celebration, these things we don't necessarily enjoy, but sometimes you can sort of understand it in the heat of the moment. But when someone plans to be a dickhead and delivers on that being a dickhead, I think it's a bit of a different kettle of fish, and I'm glad that Wakefield Trinity have taken it seriously.
It's the going equipped part of it that you've got a plan to come with that, and your plan is not to go and enjoy the match; it's to go and cause a nuisance. So, thank you very much. Not here.
Exactly, no longer welcome. Okay, moving on. Mike Smith, who has served as Hull KR's chief executive for 10 years, is to stand down from his role in May. The 58-year-old suffered from poor health in 2018 and 2019, and he said the time has come for a fresh approach to lead the club to Super League success. He said, I'm incredibly proud of how the club have developed, particularly off the field. It's a 24/7 job being a chief executive of a Super League club, and that brings so many pressures, he told the Hull KR website. Tom Andrews got in touch. He said, always liked Mike, nice guy to talk to, and did some tireless work for the club. Hoping we bring in someone else to help Hudge soon. A captain needs a crew to steer the ship. Insert sinking ship joke here. So Mike Smith, been at the helm at your club for 10 years. 10 years of mostly
definitely
progress.
Yeah, definitely professionalised a lot of the off-the-field operation. If you look at, just simple things like the website, the communications, the ticketing, the shop, all those things that bring in that valued revenue and keep fans connected, it's just changed, very differently in the I remember trying to follow the club from afar 10 years ago was so much harder than it is now, just through the actual bit that the club could control, yet alone anything else. So he's done a really good job. Met him a couple of times and he's been really good to chat to, and always had time for people at whatever level. I think that was quite a good way of working with people, and certainly deserves to enjoy his retirement. 10 years in a job like that is quite a while, so fair enough.
Yeah, so hopefully he gets the sort of rest and recuperation from a good break, and we don't lose him completely from the sport. He continues to be a supporter, let's hope, of the sport in his stepping away from that. It is a really heavy duty role. I've spoken to Chris Wedlinski a few times, and it seems like his phone's never off. He's always waiting to probably do something to help someone out around the club or to do with the club. So I'm sure it was exactly the same for Mike Smith over the other side of the country there. Right, it's 2020, Tim, so we can't do a news roundup without talking about this side. What's been going on in Rochdale/Canada/Rochdale?
Yep, Toronto Wolfpack have signed Wigan Warriors Ben Kilner and Jack Wells on month-long loan deals. Back row Wells has played 13 times for Wigan's first team, whilst prop Kilner is yet to play in Super League.
Jack Wells needs game time. Game time at Super League rather than game time at the reserve level is welcome, I think, for a man trying to get himself back into the top grade after some injury problems, some loan spells in the lower divisions, trying to build his way back. I was a little bit surprised that we let another second rower go after Joe Greenwood slipped out on loan last week, but we'll see how we manage our squad around that. Ben Kilner, I did meet Ben Kilner in the off season. I'd seen him play for the 19s and that, and watched him develop a bit, and he's really tall, and he's starting to add to that frame as well with muscle and stuff, so he's a good prospect. And I'm guessing, because he's very young, he's not on a great wedge, so is the kind of player that can fit under a salary cap constraint that the Toronto Wolfpack might be operated under as well. So Toronto needed bodies. Wigan have got a good squad depth. There you go. Ben Kilner didn't even have a squad number for Wigan's first team this year. He was definitely marked to just be a reserve player this year. So there you go.
Fair enough. Yeah. Speaking of Toronto,
Toronto prop Brad Singleton will undergo surgery on his knee after rupturing his lateral medial ligament. The injury is expected to sideline Singleton for around 4 months in his first campaign with the club, so it's good that they've brought in another prop in Ben Kilner when that news has landed as well in the same week.
Yep, and speaking of former Leeds players who are injury prone, Leeds Rhinos captain Stevie Ward has been stood down indefinitely as the club look to find out more about the concussion he suffered in the opening week of the season. Ward, who's 26, has not featured since going off in the defeat by Hull FC on the 2nd of February. He's failed to return to, this is what Rich Dagar told me, he's failed to return his return to play protocols the past 3 weeks. For him to still be showing symptoms after 3 weeks is concerning. That's Rich Dagar speaking to BBC Radio Leeds.
It is concerning, isn't it, Stevie Ward? Is a player who we sort of joke a little bit about, he's injured again.
Leeds O'Loughlin.
But at the same time, this is a kid everyone has a lot of time for, and he was given the captaincy this year. Everyone was hoping he'd have a year of fitness, and it's just a real shame that he's struggling with this concussion.
Yeah, and it is something that's potentially very nasty for the rest of his life. He does need to get it sorted out. It's not something you can play on with. So it is right. They are taking that approach and getting it sorted, but at the same time frustrating for him.
Definitely. Someone else will be feeling frustrated in more injury